All right, Tampa Bay Bucs just got good and bad news, and we're going to talk about both of it. We're going to hit the bad news first, get that out of the way, and then we're going to talk about the good news. But first, I want to talk about what is your level of optimism for the rest of the season for the Bucs. Like, truly, how good are you feeling about the Bucs' chances to make the playoffs, to win the NFC South, because that's probably about the only way that they make the playoffs, and what do you feel about their chances of actually winning a couple games when they get to the dance on the playoffs? I would love to know what your confidence level in this team is right now. If you're not familiar with what we do here, we are Lions fans, but we're hoping to give you a non-biased view of your team. We talk about a lot of teams that come from markets that the national media kind of ignores. It's weird because I feel like we talk about every team from the NFC South. We've been talking about the Bucs for quite a while. Love what Baker Mayfield represents, what he does. And maybe you wouldn't watch this because of what happened in the playoffs last year, but you got sweet revenge on us in week 2, which, I'm not thrilled about, but that's all right. Anyways, let's talk about the good news. Let's talk about the bad news. The bad news first, all right? Tampa Bay Bucs wide receiver Mike Evans, he might not play. Look, he re-aggravated that hamstring injury, and here's the deal. The hamstring strains carry a 30% weekly re-injury date. This is by Edwin Porras of Injury Prone Draft Guide. All right? We understand that. Wide receivers average 1.8 missed games due to calf strains and experience a 10% re-injury rate. Evans was unable to practice Wednesday and Thursday. When you look at the injury report, the only good news on this is that he was able to get in kind of like a partial or limited practice, so he's at least getting some run in there. That is the bad news, is that you might be without Mike Evans. Here's the good news. The fact that he got a limited participation means that even if he misses this week, he will very likely be back next week. Then I understand it's getting difficult with all these hamstrings. With him, it seems like this happens often. This will probably be his first non-1,000-yard receiving season, I think, of his career, which is unbelievable. Dude is a Hall of Famer. I mean, like, just a straight Hall of Famer. But there is good news, even though there's the bad news of this. And I got actually 2 stints of good news for you. So the Bucs' regular season schedule, they have 5 games remaining in this. They're 6-6. I would say that they will be favorites. And not only will they be favorites, but heavy favorites in 4 of those 5 games. I would expect this Bucs team to end the season at 10-7. I just would. I would expect them to end it there. And not only is it good, we're going to talk about the rest of the schedule, but let's talk about this week. The game in which Mike Evans is going to possibly miss is against the Raiders. You are at home against the Raiders. The Raiders are coming off an extremely hard-fought loss to the Chiefs, so there might be a little bit of a hangover in regards to that game as well. And Baker Mayfield has shown that even without Mike Evans, he is still able to put up some yardage. Not always. Had the really rough game against San Francisco, but for the most part, he's still going to sling it. He's going to throw the ball around. That's what he's going to do. Also, when you look at your team and you look at the emergence of Bucky Irving, never again can I... Okay, I will. Let's be honest. I will. But it's going to be harder when you see guys like Kyron Williams for the Rams, Bucky Irving for the Bucs, these guys who aren't necessarily big guys, even Tyrone Tracy a little bit, run bad 40 times. It doesn't mean they can't be a great running back. He still has quick burst in the hole. He still is shifty. He still can make people miss. And you have a running back tandem that's very, very solid now. You have a defensive secondary that's getting better and better. And you have a Raiders offense that, quite frankly, isn't that great. It just isn't that great. Aiden O'Connell had a good game against the Chiefs. He rarely has 2 good games in a row. So you're losing Evans, but it's probably the best game for the rest of the schedule to lose him on while playing against the Raiders. Also, Super Bowl rematch, right? Remember that one? Those are fun memories for you guys. All right, so against the Raiders. Here's the other good news that I have. when you look at and all of you know this if you're a Bucs fan, you're tied for first. Now, the Falcons swept you, and that sucks. There's no way to sugarcoat it, so they own the tiebreaker. But if you look at just 3 weeks ago or just 2 weeks ago, it's like, oh man, we're really far out of it, and now you're tied. Essentially, you're one game back or half a game back, however you want to say it. The Falcons just need to misstep. I showed you your schedule remaining. Raiders, Chargers, Dallas, Carolina, Nolans. All right, the Saints. You will be favored in 4 of those games. All right, LA is the only game you won't be favored, and that's because it's in LA. All right, that is a tough game, but it's winnable. They're not like a world beater team. They're just a good team. All right, Jim Harbaugh's a good coach. But when you go over and you look at Atlanta's remaining opponents, they already lost to LA, by the way. They have to go to Minnesota. Look, Las Vegas isn't a good team, but they have to go to Las Vegas. But yeah, that should be a win. New York for them should be a win. Carolina should be a win. But these 2 games, at Washington, at Minnesota, they will be big-time dogs in those games. They will be. And that game against Washington may have not only division like stuff on the line for the Falcons, but also wild card implications for both the Falcons and the Commanders. Almost said the Redskins, by the way. All right. When I talk about good and bad news, I could have said double dose of good news following bad news, right? And maybe that's what I will say. Maybe that is what the title might be, because yes, it sucks that Evans is hurt. What's important right now is to get him healthy by this game in LA. And if you can't do that, it's understanding you can win a lot of these games. Get him healthy by Dallas. Get him healthy by Carolina. Just get him healthy and ready to roll by the time the playoffs come. That's what you need to do, because I truly think that this is a team that is set to win the division. If I were a betting man, even knowing the Falcons have a de facto half-game lead over you right now, I would be betting and putting all my money in on the Bucs to make the playoffs. I just would. And so that's the way it goes. And I think it's part because I trust the grit of Baker Mayfield. I trust the fact that this is a Buccaneers team that is experienced. I think so often we think to ourselves like, oh yeah, this Bucs team had success because Tom Brady was there. No, this Bucs team was a 500 team before Tom Brady got there. And they were a good team for a couple years with Brady, and then they were a 500 team basically his final year. They got beat in the playoffs, and then I would say this Buccaneers team last year was better than the Bucs team with Brady. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like the last year with Brady. And this is just a good, talented football team. That's who the Bucs are. They're well run. They're well coached. And Baker Mayfield is a more than serviceable quarterback. Those are the 3 most important things. And so it's proven that Baker can be effective with multiple offensive coordinators. You have a defensive-minded head coach. I think the defense as this secondary, we know it's not the most talented, but they're gelling together more and more. They're heading in the right direction. The Falcons are not. So there you go. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. See you.